HR slid the paper across the polished mahogany table, the smooth wood reflecting the cold, cruel fluorescent light of the boardroom. The document was a revised employment contract, and the number staring back at me was a 60% salary reduction. 60%. I felt the air leave my lungs, but I forced my face to remain a mask of professional calm. The HR director, a woman named Vanessa whose eyes were always just a little too dead inside, leaned forward and her voice was a chilling whisper. Accept the 60% salary reduction, or we'll find someone who will. We know your situation, Sarah, and frankly, we're doing you a favor by keeping you on at all. They knew I was a single mom. They knew my entire life, my son's private school tuition, the mortgage on our tiny house, every single bill, hinged on the salary I earned as their top-performing, award-winning senior project manager. It wasn't just a threat. It was a calculated financial execution, and it was personal. Was I wrong for the calculated, absolutely nuclear revenge I unleashed that night? Should I have just swallowed my pride and accepted the new number? Or was I right to burn their house down and walk away with the ashes? Tell me, honestly, if you would have done the same thing. To understand why their treachery felt so profound, you have to know the history of my career at Stellar Dynamics. I started there 7 years ago, right after my divorce. I was an emotional wreck, but a professional powerhouse. I poured every ounce of my posts, split energy into my work, seeing the company as my salvation and a future for my son, Alex. The CEO, Mr. Marcus Thorne, a man whose ego was only rivaled by his net worth, had personally hired me. He looked me in the eye and said, "Sarah, I don't hire people. I hire warriors. Show me you're a warrior." I delivered. Within 3 years, I was managing the company's most lucrative portfolio, bringing in accounts that directly led to a 40% increase in their annual profits. I was the go-to person. If a project was failing, they gave it to me. If a client was angry, I was the one who smoothed it over. My salary reflected my value. It allowed me to give Alex the life I wanted for him, a stable home, a fantastic education, and the comfort of knowing his mom wasn't struggling. Thorne often called me his secret weapon, often making a public show of praising me, which I now realize was just a tactic to ensure I stayed loyal and overworked. The hours were brutal. I consistently worked 60 to 70-hour weeks. I missed countless school plays, soccer games, and even a few of Alex's birthdays because I was on a red eye flight to close a deal for Thorne. I made these sacrifices because I believed in the unwritten contract. My extraordinary effort would be met with extraordinary security. The first sign that things were rotten came about 6 months ago. We landed the massive Aegis contract, the biggest deal in the company's history. I spearheaded the pitch, negotiated the terms, and had literally lived out of a suitcase for 3 months to secure it. The project was complex, requiring a unique, proprietary software solution that only I had fully mastered. When the deal was celebrated, Thorne made a huge speech, took all the credit, and gave me a measly bottle of cheap champagne and a $500 bonus. No promotion, no raise, just a pat on the head. I was furious, but I had a conversation with my mentor, who told me to be patient. The Aegis contract is your leverage, Sarah. They can't execute it without you. Wait for the right time to negotiate, he'd advised. I took his advice, silently continuing to manage the Aegis implementation, ensuring I remained the sole keeper of the most critical knowledge base. I started documenting everything, not just my processes, but the flaws in the system, the areas where the company was vulnerable without me. It wasn't malice yet, it was just insurance. Then came the meeting that morning. I was called into the boardroom with HR and the CFO, Mr. Harrison. Harrison was a numbers guy, devoid of all human empathy. The official reason for the meeting was company restructuring and necessary belt tightening. When Vanessa slid that paper to me, the CFO cleared his throat and delivered the kicker. "Look, Sarah, we love your work, But with the market tightening, we've realized we can outsource your responsibilities to 3 people in the Philippines for a fraction of your cost. We're offering you a residual role, a sort of senior consultant, 60% reduction. It's either that or we terminate your contract and hire a replacement who will accept the new terms. You have until the end of the day. The audacity was breathtaking. They weren't just lowballing me. They were eliminating my financial stability, effectively making my entire career and my sacrifices worthless, all while hiding behind the word restructuring. The fact that Vanessa mentioned my situation, my status as a single mother, was the deliberate, sadistic twist of the knife. It was a clear abuse of power, knowing my limited ability to just pack up and leave without a safety net. I looked from the numbers on the page to the smug faces across from me. My hands were shaking beneath the table, but I managed a tone so calm it surprised even me. I need 24 hours, I said, my voice steady. This is a lie, faltering decision, and I need to review the legal implications. I will have my answer for you tomorrow at this exact time. Harrison hesitated, clearly wanting to demand an immediate answer, but the composure in my voice must have given him pause. He nodded reluctantly. 24 hours, Sarah, not a minute more. I stood up, gathered my things, and walked out, leaving the revised contract sitting on the table like a death sentence. I didn't go home. I drove to a quiet park overlooking the city, and I sat there, watching the sun set, fueling the cold fire in my gut. My mind wasn't racing, it was calculating. They had underestimated me, not just my talent, but my capacity for strategic retaliation. They thought I was desperate and disposable. They thought they could bully the single mother into submission. But I was the one who knew every crack in their armor. I held the keys to the most profitable contract they had, the Aegis project, and they had just committed the corporate cardinal sin. They had insulted the warrior they couldn't afford to lose. I pulled out my phone. I didn't open my resignation letter, not yet. I opened my contacts list and scrolled to a number I'd saved years ago at a major industry conference, Mr. Robert Kingsley, the CEO of OmniCorp. OmniCorp was Stellar Dynamics' biggest, fiercest, and most resource-rich competitor. Marcus Thorne hated Kingsley with a passion that bordered on pathological. Kingsley had always expressed admiration for my work, even joking once that if I ever wanted to jump ship, he would personally double my salary. It was time to find out if he was a man of his word. So that's the situation I was in. They tried to arm me into a 60% pay cut, knowing it would cripple my family, all after I built their largest account for them. I had the power to sink their flagship project, and I had a direct line to their rival. Before I tell you what happened next, what my exact brutal counter move was, I want you to pause right now and comment below. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have just resigned quietly and looked for a new job? Or would you have weaponized the knowledge and leverage you had? I'm genuinely curious to know if you would have shown them mercy. I called Kingsley. The phone rang 3 times before a smooth, deep voice answered, Robert Kingsley speaking. I took a deep breath. Mr. Kingsley, this is Sarah Jennings from Stellar Dynamics. I apologize for the cold call, but I believe I have an opportunity that will be worth your time. He chuckled, a genuine warm sound. Sarah Jennings, the Aegis whisperer. It is absolutely worth my time. What can I do for you? I didn't mince words. I laid out the situation plainly, professionally, and without a hint of emotion. Stellar Dynamics has just informed me of a planned 60% reduction in my salary, effective immediately, citing restructuring. As you know, I am the sole person with the master-level knowledge required to execute the Aegis contract. I designed the proprietary software integration and hold all the critical knowledge. Without me, Aegis stalls, potentially resulting in breach of contract penalties. I am formally seeking new employment. I am offering you, Mr. Kingsley, not just my talent and my entire client Rolodex, but the immediate, confidential assistance in taking over the key accounts I managed, starting with Aegis, in exchange for a contract that reflects my actual market value and provides immediate security for my son. There was a long silence on the line, the kind of silence that feels like a physical thing. Then Kingsley's voice came back, sharp and predatory. "Sarah, you're a warrior. Thorne was right about that. Get in a cab right now. I'll have an offer for you before midnight." I met Kingsley at a discreet restaurant. He had his head of legal there, ready to work. We talked for 3 hours. I didn't just ask for my old salary. I asked for double it, plus a massive signing bonus, full benefits coverage for Alex and me, and a clause that specifically addressed my flexibility as a single mother. I detailed the exact vulnerabilities in Stellar Dynamics' execution of Aegis, the critical staffing shortages they were facing, and the complete lack of internal backup for my knowledge. I was selling them a clear path to crippling their competitor's biggest win. Kingsley didn't flinch. He just looked at his lawyer and nodded. "Draft the contract, James. Meet her terms." By 11:30 p.m., I had a signed, ironclad employment contract with OmniCorp, and a massive signing bonus had already been wired to my personal account. The next morning, I walked back into the boardroom at Stellar Dynamics precisely at the agreed-upon time. Harrison and Vanessa were waiting, looking smug. The revised contract was still there. "Your decision, Sarah," Vanessa asked, a venomous smile playing on her lips. I didn't even sit down. I reached into my briefcase and slid 3 documents across the table. The first was my formal immediate resignation, effective immediately. The second was a pre-signed non-disclosure/non-compete agreement that I had worked out with OmniCorp's legal team, strategically drafted to leave open my work on the Aegis type of technology, but not the specific Stellar Dynamics implementation. The third was the most beautiful thing I have ever printed. A signed, notarized letter to the client on the Aegis contract, informing them that I, the senior project manager, had resigned and that the project's lead architect was now employed by OmniCorp, and that OmniCorp was willing to step in immediately to assume the project's responsibilities to ensure its success. Harrison's face went white as a sheet when he read the resignation. Vanessa, still smirking, picked up the third letter. As she read it, the blood drained from her face, and her eyes went wide with genuine panic. You can't do this. You're under contract," Harrison stammered. I leaned over the table, my voice dangerously soft. "No, Harrison, I'm not. You gave me 24 hours to accept your new 60% reduced contract. I declined it. My previous contract is now null and void. I am a free agent, and you just gave your biggest competitor all the information they need to poach your biggest account because you thought you could abuse a single mother's financial necessity. You knew I was a warrior, Mr. Harrison. You just forgot what a warrior does when backed into a corner." I turned and walked out, leaving the sound of their frantic, whispered arguments behind me. The aftermath was glorious. I started at OmniCorp immediately, and my first project was indeed helping them secure the Aegis contract. Within a week, the client, terrified by Stellar Dynamics' lack of preparedness and my sudden departure, broke their contract with Thorne and signed with OmniCorp. The breach of contract penalties crippled Stellar Dynamics' annual projections. They had to fire Vanessa and Harrison in the fallout, and Marcus Thorne's secret weapon became the dagger that plunged into the heart of his empire. I am now thriving at OmniCorp. I have better hours, a supportive team, and a salary that ensures my son will never have to worry. I gave them 24 hours to reconsider their cruelty, and they chose to double down. Their arrogance was my opportunity. The lesson: never underestimate the quiet ones, especially the ones with everything to lose. So, that's how I traded a 60% pay cut for a 100% pay raise, all while handing my former CEO biggest contract to his arch rival. I've never looked back, and I sleep perfectly well at night. Like this video if you were on my side in this corporate battle. Subscribe for more stories like this where the good guy, or in this case, the fierce mom, wins. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Tell me if I was justified in my vengeance, or if I crossed a line. I'll see you all in the next story.